Yeah, I would like to welcome the community to the General Council meeting for September the 10th, 2024. I would just like to first ask if there's any identification of media online. Okay, not seeing any. I would like, just before we get started, to take a moment of silence to honor the community members that we have lost recently. Thank you very much for that. Just one quick acknowledgement before we get into the adoption of the agenda for this evening. One of the things is, of course, we had our fair. We had our fair on the weekend, and I would like to acknowledge and congratulate all of the individuals that are involved with the organization and the putting on of our fair. And of course, that includes the Fair Board, all of their organizers, volunteers, food vendors, the ride and arcade, also the entertainment and the exhibits, the exhibitors, and also the Parks and Rec staff, for the setup and tear down of all those items that were going on at the fair. And of course, all the sponsors. It was sponsored to, of course, also to GRE being a major sponsor, and all the other sponsors as well. The other thing, too, I'd like to make an announcement to the winners of the Miss Six Nations contest. I thought that was quite well done. Quite a bit of categories. The Miss Six Nation winner for Miss Six Nations was Hunter Jameson. For Miss Teen Six Nation was Peyton Hill. For Miss Preteen Six Nations was Ariel Martin. For Miss Mini Six Nations was Averly Moore. For Little Miss Six Nations was Kiana Moore. For Miss Tiny Tot Six Nations was Rhea Johnson. So, and also congratulations to all the babies. Very well decked out in cultural garb. It was quite nice to see. One of the things I wouldn't like to be is a judge in that competition. But yeah, congrats to all the babies and the parents and families that participated in the baby show. So,
Recording in progress.
go ahead, Melba, for a comment.
I was a vendor for 3 days, and certainly we had a lot of comments to say that the fairs are getting better and better, and they felt that this one was one of the best they've ever been at. So hopefully it'll continue with the help, of course, with the community. There was a lot of community help, financially and otherwise. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Melba. I was also drawn over to the Crown and Anchor. I was up a little bit, but in the end, I gave it back. But I broke out even. So quite fun. It was fun for just about everyone that was that attended the fair. I would first of all like to go to see if there are any additions or deletions. Cynthia? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Amos? Anyone else for additions or deletions? Okay, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Okay. Moved by Audrey. Second by Dale. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, the motion is carried. We'd like to move on to number 4, the delegation presentations. I see we have Barry Hill here tonight. Barry, of course, the warden for Mohawk Chapel. And again, it's concerning the signing out of the silver bells. So, yeah, Barry, if you could come to the mic. It's Christmas. Welcome, Barry. Just before you speak, you just have to press on the button and the red light will come on.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Sego. Um, You should have, I drafted a BCR when I made out the forms. I don't know if that's in front of you or not. But the purpose of my visit was to gain support for a band council resolution, which is part of the protocol that was established a long time ago. Um, a BCR is required to remove the artifacts from the vault. We have this is a once in a lifetime occasion. You recall I was I was here, I think, January or so. Not exactly remember. Describing how the Queen approved a royal heraldry or a coat of arms for the chapel, and it's the only one, only chapel in certainly in Canada, and probably in the world for an Indigenous royal chapel to have their own arms, and so it is truly a once in a lifetime thing. Now, as I always point out when I'm talking to people, our ancestors earned it. We paid for that chapel in blood over a few hundred years of conflict, and there's a long story there, which we won't go into tonight. But I thought that it would be appropriate if we had on display the silver communion service that goes back to 1712. Uh, There's the big Bible, which we usually get royalty or at least a lieutenant governor is allowed to sign in. And so we will be having the lieutenant governor come to be part of the ceremony. And the silver bells themselves, which were a gift in 2010 from the Queen as a gesture towards polishing the silver covenant chain, as she put it at that time. So we're going to display the silverware and the Bible and have the lieutenant governor sign when she finishes her ceremony. The silver bells will be used to escort the lieutenant governor into the chapel for the beginning of the service. Just so you'll know what's going on quickly, uh, we're having the Veterans Color Party to enter first, and then the bell ringers with these 300-year-old bells. And the Lieutenant Governor comes in, and then we have some addresses from different people and welcome words. We always start with the Thanksgiving address. Mike Mentor helps us with that. I made a rule back in 2013 when I took over that Mohawk would always be spoken whenever we had an event. And so my singers are getting too tough on the voice anymore. They smoke too much. Anyway, we're going to do that address, opening and closing. Lieutenant Governor, we're having it's back and forth. I was pushing to have, you see, the original relationship was with the chiefs, the Haudenosaunee chiefs of that time, uh, and they have to be present to accept these arms. And we have names. It's still being discussed at council, but hopefully that will come to pass. Be going on with remarks from the Six Nations elected council as well. All the surrounding politicians, and they're all keen on coming. I told them that I wouldn't let them speak, but it'll take too long. But they've all agreed to submit a letter, which I'll print in the program. And I'll acknowledge them being there and then say, read the book and you'll find out what the words are. And they've all agreed to that. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh did respond, but they can't come, so they're sending a representative from their, their, their household. She will offer a few words. So that's the general outline. We're having a reception afterwards. I've hired a brass band to entertain us. It'll be like a garden party, you know, because we're going to be a long time before we do something this big. We're getting close to 100 people lined up to come. I was surprised. I sent out invitations to my contact list, and they all responded yes. So I got 80 back before I even started. So we'll get organized finally. We got pins made of that. So and other treats as well. So that's the plan. As far as the artifacts go, because they are, I know we all have concerns about safety. So I've talked to Six Nations Police, who will be in attendance, and talked to Derek Anderson, and I'm going to, after we sign the artifacts out of the bank, and I believe, Greg, you're coming to that. We need 2 council reps, two chapel reps to process that. So once they're signed out, I'm taking them over to the police station, and they'll store them and bring them. Hopefully they'll be on time, and they'll bring them up on the day of the event, and then we'll take them back after. Okay? So I'd appreciate the support to get those out and make it a very fine day. So
Just before we go to the motion, this is a part of a 3-day event, right, Barry? This has got to do with the Chapel's Royal Conference that starts in Toronto
yes,
and starts on, I think, with a reception maybe on the Friday of the September 27th at Massey College. And then I just wanted for all our viewers and listeners that it's a 3-day event, and it's put on by the Chapel's Royal, right? Is that correct? And then your day is on Sunday, correct?
yeah. This actually is my fault for trying to save money. Uh, the King's chaplain, who's been here before actually, and that brings up another point. He was here twice, before COVID and then shortly after. The last time he was here, he met with Chief Mark at that time. Then I took him to the Sour Springs Longhouse for supper. And what turned out to be, what was expected to be 6 people, turned out to be 25, which was good. So we had a dinner there and speeches and so forth. By the way, there's a request right now which we're trying to sort through, if they will confirm or not. I can accommodate that in that the same group would like to meet with him privately again. We can do that before the event starts and have it in the tent if required. No, what happened was I heard that the Canon Wright is his name, was coming to Canada on this weekend, and I thought, well, that's a good day to have our event because I wanted him to be there and represent the King. And since then, the Saturday event that Councillor Fraser just mentioned has blown up into something huge. You may or may not be aware of the fact that the Mississaugas have been given, and that's the only way to put it, a royal chapel. Back in 20, not that long ago, 5 years ago, there's a chapel that was in Massey College as part of the University of Toronto. They set that aside and had it designated as a royal chapel, but just for the Mississaugas. And it doesn't measure up to the kind of history that we have, and what we had to do to get a royal chapel, but nevertheless, it's there. And so, on one hand, if you take the high road, by combining a meeting with that chapel with Tyendinaga and ourselves, you've got a unique situation where there's 3 royal chapels in Canada that should be able to work together and to do something meaningful around reconciliation, for example. And so that's the high road. What's distressing to some of us is that, and Councillor Fraser is going through this right now, they decide what's important for us Indians in Toronto. And so they came up with 25 words of the condensation of the Thanksgiving address and want him to read it. And you can tell he's not going to do that. They grow tobacco in their, one of the guys grows tobacco in his flower bed, sacred tobacco, and then they give it to the lieutenant governor to give to us when they come to visit. I am very uneasy with this whole thing, but the Mississaugas love it, and that's what's going ahead. So, none of the people I deal with in my committee didn't want to go, but I'm going to go anyway because I can't let them get away with what they want to say. So we're going to make our own point of view known, and Councillor Fraser will represent. I have to leave early to come back and worry about Sunday, so he's going to stay on and deal with those rest of the folks for the rest of the day. I don't want to sound bitter or distressful. It's not even a proper chapel, but that's another point. Anyway, so that's something we have to deal with all the time, I guess. It's close to cultural appropriation in some respects, but it's too bad it had to happen that way.
Well, yeah, thank you, Barry. Yes, further to that point, I did receive an email suggesting after I was invited to speak, they sent me the text that I was supposed to say. I was quite taken aback by that. As to Barry's point, I think this is a good opportunity to assert our culture and our ways and how we do our address, and how the association of the Church of England or Anglican Church is associated or has been associated with us, and some of their influences and effects, and what has transpired, and even the effects that have lingered over the centuries. So I think that should be also made apparent to them. So
Right.
yeah, thank you, Barry. So I'd like to get to the motion. Oh, is there any questions for Barry? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Not so much for Barry, but in relation to the motion, just reading what's on our agenda, then reading Barry's proposed resolution that he had sent. And I know in the resolution that says for us is it just makes reference to the silver bells, and then he has the communion silver and the Bible. So I don't know, we want to add that into the resolution if that was his request.
That was my intent, was to have all 3 objects, yes.
So we could add that as well to make it complete.
And if we can make those changes, I'll move on the motion.
Moved by Dale, second by Amos. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading. Moved by Carrie, second by Amos. All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Dale. Sorry, excuse me, Dale. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you very much, Barry.
Just one thing
Yeah.
before I go. It is September 29th at 2 o'clock. You're all, obviously all welcome to be there. It's an open event that it's going in the papers hopefully this Wednesday. This is the first public announcement of it, in the media type of thing. Up to now, it's just been by direct letter. I've got people, professors coming from Tulsa and Toronto and all places in between, people from Alberta. It's going to be a thing. Come early if you want to be inside. I've got an extra tent outside. This was for the reception, but we're wiring it with sound and TV. So if there's overflow, you can watch everything from outside. But you're not supposed to eat the food up before we get there. So thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Barry. Yeah, so that will be at the Mohawk Chapel on September 29th. That's a Sunday, and beginning at 2 p.m. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
just a question. And I don't know, maybe Nathan, you can answer this. I know historically, when we signed these out, it was always by council authorized signatures. So I didn't know, like, I know the chief is one, you're one, and I don't know who else would be the signing authorities. And so I don't know if that policy has changed and that procedure has changed. And if we're not following that policy, then and if Greg isn't an authorized signing authority, then he's gonna need a resolution from council to sign it.
The authorized are myself, Jennifer, and the chief, and we made arrangements. I think we said the 26th at 10 o'clock. Myself and Jennifer will be there to sign off.
Yeah, we're sending it out on the Thursday because Friday is going to be a busy day for me getting tents and toilets and everything delivered. And so we're going to do it on Thursday, and then the police will have it from then until Sunday.
And I think you confirmed and I confirmed with Sergeant Anderson that he will keep it.
That's correct.
Yep.
And just to sum up for the community, I would like to read the motion in entirety. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of Grand River elected council officially approve the request by Barry Hill on behalf of the Royal Chapel of the Mohawks to have the Queen Anne silver bells on display, as well as the Bible and silver, communion silver, that's correct. And on September 29th, 2024, during the unveiling of the Mohawk Chapel Royal Coat of Arms. Again, yeah, thank you, Barry, and I will be waiting for the final itinerary so that we can broadcast. Thank you. Great, thank you. Thank you. And I would like to move on to number 5, the adoption of the General Council minutes of August 27, 2024. It's recommendation 5.1 that Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council adopt the General Council minutes of August 27, 2024 with noted changes and deletions. Could I have a mover? Moved by Amos, second by Audrey. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Number 6, item number 6. Go ahead, Helen.
I have a question on this, that, Andre, the drone thing. Is that what that one is? Do these not have to go through ethics anymore? I mean, they're collecting data, they're doing research. They should be going through ethics.
He does have an application in ethics. This was for flying drones over
Yeah.
the river.
So ethics, when it goes goes to ethics and ethics recommends to council. But we're going it backwards. We approve this, now we're taking it to ethics. It should be going to ethics first and then recommend to council.
It did go to ethics first.
Oh, because I didn't remember them saying that when it was here. The same with that Ladar. That should have went to ethics too. But we didn't do, we just hurried up and approved it, and they're gonna be doing all kinds of work in our bush and doing research and data.
I'm doing a briefing note on the Lazar one to get it back through the proper channels.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
It's the first time I heard that word
What?
in
Ethics.
connection to a council function. I didn't, is there like a ethics committee? I've never heard of it.
We're supposed to have, we've always had one.
It's in all of our orientation. It has, this beast has not raised its noble head.
It was a presentation to council by Zach.
Really?
Yep.
I was dozing off, I guess.
I can he had a presentation, so I'll resend out the presentation as
I
well
don't
as the
remember that
motion that he
either.
passed.
Do you?
Staff is on there, yeah.
I think Melba used to sit there, right? On ethics. I thought you did. Yeah. Oh,
I'll get Zach to come back with the presentation he had.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. Go ahead, Dale.
oh,
Yeah, like historically, the ethics committee, was usually staff that looked at the applications. And more times than any, the applications that when they dealt with ethics was when they were actually doing research on Six Nations and within Six Nations. I know the other individual with he has I guess paper he's doing for a university was just to take some pictures, I guess, over the Grand River, and that's where it was gonna be strictly.
So at this time, with working with Nathan, we'll schedule Zach to come by and do a presentation for the ethics and ethics committee, and probably most likely the procedure. Great, thank you. Oh, I have been just given the chief's update to general counsel. I can read it out. If or we have two options at this point. We can wait for the chief at the next meeting to do her update, or I can read it out for you tonight. It's just I need some discussion. Go ahead, Melba.
I think it's very important to read it out now. Yeah, for the sake of the community as well as us, if you will, please.
Going around the table, is that acceptable at this time? Great, thank you. I will proceed to go ahead and just handed out the written form for the chief's update for all her recent, I guess, activities. And of course, as we approach the first anniversary of the election of the 59th Council, I know the council is working hard to prepare informative updates for the community on everything that has basically been happening. And that's sort of what her preamble was. And of course, the council has a plan to release a political newsletter to the community in November and to highlight all of the hard work being done by the chief and council, and also maybe at times provide periodic updates moving forward. And then she goes on to say that as her being chief and council, we have the opportunity to meet with politicians, government officials, and staff on all levels of government, like we did at AMO, and also to ensure that Six Nations members have their needs met and are well served. We also, that the chief and council work hard to build up our own capacity for self-governance as an exercise of our sovereignty. We did have a short meeting with Minister Tibolo, and of course, he's the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. And also Councillor Amos Key was able to attend, as well as the chief and myself. And the meeting was to discuss the recent announcement of funding for the new homeless and addictions recovery treatment hubs, as they're called. As you know, they are closing some of the consumption sites, and they're going to be replacing with their so-called heart hubs. I know there's been two, I would say, set-asides for Indigenous heart hubs, and we are making an application for one of them. He also did mention that he's a strong believer in land-based healing, and that it can provide treatment for people to get much better using culturally appropriate methods. The minister also gave us some good insight on other funding vehicles that are available for infrastructure through other departments that we may use to support this heart hub. Now, the other portion she was discussing was the second generation cutoff and informing the federal government about its impact on us. And of course, Indigenous Services Canada has acknowledged that they did receive an email from the chief's office that was sent with support of this council, informing them that we have concerns about the second generation cutoff and that we would like them to prioritize an appropriate manner of hearing our concerns and also responding to them. Go ahead, Audrey.
Yes, I'd like to know if you would explain it just a little bit more detail of the second generation for the audience, please.
Yeah, that is that, as you know, there's two types of majorities when it comes to that. Is a simple majority, and that's what we are looking for. As if it is, for example, where we have a mother that is non-First Nations and a First Nations, right? That they will be, the offspring will be included. Beyond that, then they are then cut off. To change that, of course, we have to go to, they were recommending a referendum. And of course, we are proponents of a simple majority rather than having 50% of our nation come forward and then have the majority from that 50%, which is virtually impossible for us because we do have a lot of First Nation members that are not on reserve and that have the capacity to come in and vote. So that was just the quick synopsis. But the ISC has said that they expect to launch a public call out for First Nation-led solutions. And of course, we did, so working with Lori, we did supply some of those solutions to them. They also acknowledged that First Nations' right to informed consent, said they would be pleased to discuss how to support Six Nations providing more input on that issue. The other thing too is that she sent out a letter to Minister Haydu to directly make her aware of these concerns as well, based on the expert information from our technical staff and also some of the expertise that they provided. Now we move on to she attended the Leadership Council, and the Leadership Council meeting on Wednesday, September the 4th. The Leadership Council was informed of upcoming AFN and COO events, and then they will want to coordinate council representatives to attend those. The Chiefs of Ontario update on Bill C-53 and the so-called Métis Nation of Ontario. The Chiefs of Ontario have asked the federal government to stop funding Métis Nation of Ontario projects. The Métis Bill C-53 has stalled in Parliament, but it has not been withdrawn. So it could still advance if the House of Commons doesn't listen to First Nations. And of course, the Chief's office will continue to monitor this issue. Also, her staff attended a City of Brantford Council meeting to report back on all the deliberations at that council meeting. On Tuesday, September the 3rd, her staff attended the Brantford City Hall to observe their council discussion of Mayor Davis's proposed motion, which calls on the Chief Justice of Ontario to assign a trial judge, because that has been a big delay in our court case, is finding and assigning a trial judge, so that our Six Nations court case may finally begin after almost 30 years. The mayor had given the chief and her staff a heads up when they met with him recently that he was considering proposing that motion prior to the meeting. And also the mayor acknowledged that the staff were present, and he spoke passionately about the need for Six Nations court case to begin trial, saying that justice delayed is justice denied. Also, Brantford councillors spoke highly of our court case and in favor of the motion, and the committee of the whole at their meeting unanimously approved the motion, which will be ratified at their next full council meeting. So that was actually good news. And as the chief, as I've been working hard to basically build relationships with Brantford, this was a good sign, and it's a good way of moving forward as getting their cooperation with our court case. So that is the chief's update. Could I have a mover to accept it as information? Okay. Moved by Hazel, second by Leslie. All in favor? Any opposed?
I just wanted to make a comment.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Concerning the hub, I wonder if you could. It's kind of new to people when you talk about these kind of buzzwords that's been going around the last couple of years or more. What is a hub? What may it contain that's going to be useful to the community?
Presently, there were some consumption sites that were available for, and that was a form of treatment. Normally in Ontario, I think there were 19 of them. They were also called hubs as well. These consumption sites were in areas of mainly, I guess, cities and surrounding areas. They have decided, Ford's government has decided to close some of them down because of there were allegations of crime, and also there was questions of their efficacy, or how I guess successful they were in drug treatment. Now what they did was they are closing down 10 of them, and also opening up 19 of these new homeless and recovery treatment sites. They're actually converting some of them. One of the reasons they closed them down and they were going to not allow them to open is because some of these sites were close to schools, within 200 meters of schools, so they automatically closed them down. Of course, there's always a little bit of a controversial issue concerning the effect of closing down consumption sites, because of when you shut them off, there could be some health issues that ensue after that because of these treatments not being available to addicted people in the community. So, but they're adamant about that. They set aside of these new 19 that are going to be put forward. It's actually to seek treatment. It's not to consume drugs. It's actually to have them be monitored and give them direction to actually treat, and also give them areas to where they can go for treatment as well. So Claire has some more information on that. Claire, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Fraser did provide a very solid overview, but I think what is quite unique for the Ministry of Health with these hubs is they're trying to do like complex care and providing services. So they're combining like community safety and treatment and recovery all under this one hub. So I just wanted to add that.
Great, thank you. Is there any further questions or comments? I've had Helen and Amos.
I guess my concern is if they're shutting them down because there's been issues like crime and different things around these hubs, why would we want to bring one here?
This is not a consumption site. They're closing down consumption sites where they're given drugs to actually keep them at a functional level. So what they're doing is they're now, because of their concerns about the possibility of an increased crime around these, as well as them being fairly close to schools, that they didn't think that was a good way of treating the addiction. This was a decree from Ford and the Minister of Health. So they decided to go in another direction and, like to Claire's point, of providing areas where people can find out to go to, or where to go for comprehensive care. Their more emphasis is now on treatment rather than just continual use of drugs. But I think it's got to do with harm reduction. And as you know, sometimes when you cut people off, really like all of a sudden, like a light switch, that there could be some problems. So there was some concern about that as well. Audrey?
Two questions. One is, do they actually live there to seek treatment? And the second one is, when they go off the reserve to seek treatment and they're residential, there's a cost to it. Any place from 25,000 to 55,000 and up. I don't know who has that kind of money to go and have their child get that type of treatment. So it just perpetuates itself.
Well, that was the emphasis, was to actually get them off. One of the ways and one of the applications would require that they provide funding. They do provide funding for that way of treatment. The other thing is that where the thing is infrastructure. That was one of our questions with the minister, was infrastructure. Where do we have the infrastructure to do so? He said there was funding dollars available in the Ministry of Infrastructure, and that we could actually be, I guess, creative in the fact that we're using one to find infrastructure dollars, and at the second time find service dollars for the drug treatment. And so we're looking into that, and he was quite enthusiastic about us as being a probably potential person that actually could use it. And he's actually got a PhD, I believe, in psychology or something like that, along the lines of looking at drug addiction. So it was quite informative, his meeting, and he's quite helpful on see if we can help it. That type of treatment regime would work here. So he is, and I think because as you know, our drug treatment is disjointed a little bit, and it's all over. And this would be more of a comprehensive, cohesive look towards treatment. And again, it's not consumption, it's treatment. So, Tibolo, that's right. Go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to your report on the chair on the report for the chief on the litigation. We had a CAP meeting today. We have it every second Monday. And today was the day we had a short meeting over there with my colleague Cynthia Jameson was there and the CAP team. Just to let my colleagues know and or remind my colleagues and to let the community know, there will be a public engagement on October the 3rd at Community Hall starting at between 5 and 6. And we'll hear from our legal team about the beginning of this road, this journey. And they'll fill us in the early stages of it. So they'll be here on October 3rd and 5 to 6 at the Community Hall, just for our viewers and listeners online, just to that. And it'll be all, they're going to promote it as well on radio and social media and then newspapers. So just to remind everyone, that's October 3rd. 5 o'clock.
Okay. Great. So that's October the 3rd at 5 o'clock at the Community Hall.
Yeah. Cynthia, did I leave anything out? My colleague was there.
There's food.
Yes, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, that's very good to see. We should point that out initially in all these meetings. But anyway, yeah, well, thank you very much, Amos, for that. Yes, could I have a mover to accept Amos's moved by Audrey, seconder? Second by Hazel, all in favor. Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you, Amos, for that. I'd like to move on to the, sorry, we did not finish the vote on accepting Sherry Lynn's update. So all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, the motion is carried. Moving on to Internal Systems Committee. Item number 7, the recommendation from Internal Systems Committee, and it's recommendation 7-1. And would a counselor, any counselor like to speak to that?
I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so the donations policy is something that Internal Systems has been working on. It's one of the first policies that we're bringing forth with recommendations for just slight changes. I say that. I'm not sure if anybody has been able to read through it. I have both pulled up, like the previous one and the one with revisions, so I can go back if anybody has any questions. I would first maybe like to read through the purpose just for community. So the Community Donation Grant and Sponsorship Fund Policy. The purpose reads, the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council is committed to the betterment of the community and its members. In the past, SNGREC has regularly supported individual members and community organizations that foster community volunteerism and engagement, facilitate and participate in team and individual sports and or events, and facilitate social activities that lead to positive growth, achievement, and healthy development. This is something that we've added during the revisions. Funding for individual members and community organizations will be considered under the following categories. So we wanted to make things clear for parents for what they can, applicants, I shouldn't just say parents, but for the categories that they can apply for, so people understand that it is not just for sports. So we have arts and culture, recreation, community, education, and health. Some other notable changes aside from the little housekeeping things that are you'll see in yellow, which is changing, um, adding SNGR as opposed to SNGREC, I think it used to be. So we're focusing this policy now on youth and added vulnerable persons so that anybody that is fitting in that vulnerable person definition, whether they are over the age of 19, can still apply. And in doing so, we are upping the amounts that can be asked for. So a donation amount maximum was previously $500. It will now be $1,000 for an individual. And for a community organization, it was previously $1,000 and it is now $2,000. And for a grant amount, it is now $3,000. And then we've also, for something that came up, was for children that the policy read that the applicant or the child had to do complete volunteer hours. But an issue was that some children are not old enough to complete volunteer hours. So we've added a spot where parents can complete those volunteer hours for children that are unable to. I believe those are the substantive changes. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Elena? Go ahead, Helen.
Sorry.
So all of these yellow, is this what they're taking out, is all of these yellow things that are on here? Is that what's being removed?
No, so Dwayne has,
So what are these yellow, all these yellow things?
um,
I'm not clear what's being changed and what isn't being changed because
so things that are being struck would be in the red with a,
with the red yellow things?
yeah. A lot of it is like grammar but like you'll see the 3,000 that's highlighted as a change.
So,
All of the SNGRs are highlighted. The definitions again had to change a little bit. So the majority of that yellow is in the definitions.
so the five, categories. So sports is taken out?
No, that's recreation.
I don't see sports under the 5 categories.
That's recreation.
You got
Yeah.
arts and culture, recreation. Recreation is sports?
Yeah.
Because this used to just be for sports.
Yeah, so what has come back to council, I guess, as, and I don't know if Nathan has more insight on this, um, there are children that are interested in other things other than sports.
So are we going to have a separate one for sports?
No, this includes sports.
So we're not going to be able to fund too much sports apparently. Because you know if they're going to use it for stuff, other stuff. It was always intended for sports, but I think we need 2. We need one for sports.
Sports is included here, and
But
this,
there's not going to be much money left with all of those categories.
we
You
increased
could
the,
have somebody come in and want to do all of the, I can't remember what was there, but those other things, that the money's gone. Then when sports comes up, there's no money. That's my thinking. My other
Go ahead,
one
Nathan.
is, I don't know, I think I think this is really, really complicated for somebody that wants to just get money to take dance lessons or something. It's too complicated. I have people, when I give it to somebody to fill out, it's like, how am I supposed to do this? What kind of, I can't, what kind of letter of reference am I supposed to get from my kid? I don't know why that's there. Why do they have to write a letter of reference as to their character? What if somebody's 10 years old? Where are they supposed to get a letter of reference and you can't use your family? It says right in here. Who are they supposed to get it from? And do we even have to question a 10-year-old kid's character? Like, this is really complicated, and I think it's really too much. It's making it so difficult for these people to get some money. Why do they have to do volunteer hours? What's that got to do with anything? It's making people, what's the word I want to use? Making people have to go through such a hard time just to get $500. Why do we have all this here? Can somebody answer me? Why do they have to do volunteer work? What does that prove?
Go
I
ahead,
can
Nathan.
understand fundraising, that they should be fundraising to help themselves, but volunteer work, I don't understand what that's supposed to prove if somebody wants to get $200 to take a dance lesson or something.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, so when the donation committee, or sorry, the internal systems committee reviewed a lot of this work, the whole aim of it was to streamline and to take the kind of comments that we're hearing from community members around a lot of the, I'd call it the red tape in terms of this particular piece. And no doubt we can take another look at the application process around the intake pieces, but the one area is when we look at the cost, I think we were looking at providing more dollars into the donation pieces so that we could cover a lot more because it was just geared to sport and there wasn't a lot of room for those that are doing others like arts and culture and the education pieces. So I think what we were trying to do in a lot of ways was kind of combine and have this particular donation policy work with the other funders that we have within the community at large. In terms of the donation, or sorry, like things like the application pieces, one of the areas we could look at is definitely toning it down in terms of those that are under a certain age. And I think we talked about that at committee. Pretty sure I was given direction to kind of do those amendments on the application process. But the one thing we have to get approved first is the policy Once that's completed, then I can cross-reference that policy changes with anything within the application to make it more streamlined.
Go ahead, Cynthia, and then Hazel.
Trying to pull on my memory banks here. I do believe when we did our annual budgeting, this was one of the items that came up, and it was it 35,000? 30,000, but now it was increased to 100,000. And in addition, it was is something anyone could apply for regardless of age. And then it was thought then, because there's limited funds, to make the concentration on the youth. So I don't know if that helps you any, Helen, because it was wide open for everyone. So now it's for the youth, and the amount of funds available has been increased.
Go ahead, Hazel, and then Amos.
Can I have a follow-up just for
Sure.
a second?
Go.
For me, it's just that we're making everything so difficult for everyone. I mean, look at housing, for crying out loud. Why are we doing this? We should be helping our people to get and go where they want to go. They shouldn't have to follow all these hoops. They got to go through all these hoops to get some help. I don't understand why we're doing that. I know there has to be criteria, and I know there has to be some stuff there that you have to do, but why are we making everybody jump through so damn many hoops to get something done and help and to move forward? And we should be helping our people. I read this application. This one lady brought it to me and wanted me to help her fill it out. I even had a hard time myself filling this darn thing out. And I'm thinking, these are our community members. A lot of them aren't, I don't know. I just think we're hurting our people by doing this to them all the time. It's like making them beg and jump through hoops just for money or for assistance or something. Can't even build a damn house.
Go ahead, follow up, Cynthia.
Excuse my language.
Correct. We are, that was the challenge, to make it better fit the needs of the community. And we've got all the members sitting here listening, and it can go back to the committees for council's review for your input, which has been heard. And we are taking, I don't think that was forwarded or that has been done yet, Nathan, the actual application form itself. Maybe we should have them in tandem so you can see that, because no, we don't want to create more barriers. Our task is to be more helpful, as you say, Helen.
Hazel, and then Amos, Leslie, and Elena.
I view when someone is given some dollars to participate in sports or dance or whatever, singing, I think this is sort of along the lines of how it's always been for like teenagers who were required to do community services. And you'll always find a teenager who's looking for something to do in terms of getting in their community service hours that they need for their high schools. I think with smaller people, like the little dancers and all of that, I agree that it shouldn't be so difficult, and like what Helen's saying is jumping through hoops. It should be simplified, so it's easier. And if a small child wants to dance, say the child is 5, and they have to sort of do a community service, like, which is showing their appreciation for somebody giving them a donation to do what they want to do. What do you expect a 5-year-old to do? What kind of jobs are there for a little 5-year-old, other than telling him you have to keep your room clean for a month, maybe? I don't know. I think I agree with Helen. We got to be more simplified with our business, because it's almost like everything is becoming so, I don't even know what that word is, where you gotta do red taped. Let's don't forget who we are, and everything doesn't have to be so darn difficult to get something like a housing loan. Thank you.
Just before we go to Amos, Nathan?
Yeah, I was just looking because I know we talked about the volunteer hours and reduced the volunteer hours. So we reduced the volunteer hours down to 4 volunteer hours, either to be completed by the individual, and if it is under the age of 11, then the parent would do the 4 hours volunteer work. For community associations, at least one of the members of that association would have to complete 8 hours, or they could do it in tandem. So I knew that was discussed. I was just looking for the reference in the application. So that has changed and reduced to 4. But if we want to eliminate the volunteer hours, we can take it back to committee and do that. But that was the concession, was reducing it to 4. And if the individual was under 11, then it would be completed by the parent or guardian.
Go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest or state that, even to get an OSSD in this province, you got to do 40 hours in high school. So, I mean, all of this, to me, helps build someone's character. It helps them build a work ethic, because we're not going to get everything for free without doing any work. And I think this begins to show these families, these parents, and these young people that I'm not going to get everything for free. I have to put some time into it, some energy into it, and I don't think it's very complicated, unless our comprehension level is so lower than I thought. I estimated at grade 6, but if it's lower than that, then maybe we are in trouble. But I think parents and young people, young families, they'll get to understand that you can apply to grants not only here but everywhere else, and it begins to build their character. That's all I wanted to say. But if we can simplify it a little bit more, but I like the work that this group did in laying out the 5 categories. That's what we talked about at our meeting, and because not everybody does sports here, you know. There's more than lacrosse and figure skating. There's tennis. There's all kinds of other sports. Swimming, we're going to be talking about soon. I mean, this begins to open that up for our young people to imagine them being in their character something more than a lacrosse player and a figure skater. That's all I'm going to say. I have nothing
Leslie?
against those because I play lacrosse too.
Sorry, Amos.
Sorry.
Thanks, Amos. Leslie?
I agree with Helen about this volunteerism. The reason I agree with you is because even as we speak today, and this camera's on, and some of our community members will know about this donation. But I can guarantee you, not all of our children are going to have access to these dollars, nor will they even ever hear about it in this year. Why? Because this is probably the only place it's being exposed, and some flyers. Unless it went through the schools and to different places where the parents are, I could see that being more accessed. But in some of our situations, some lives of some of our children, they're never going to have an opportunity to do volunteer work here at Six Nations. Why? Why could a child not be able to volunteer? Because maybe there's no vehicle, no transportation to get them out to volunteer. And then you want to take a parent away from the child to go and give 4 to 10 hours somewhere in community when maybe they need help. So maybe as opposed to having any child have to volunteer, and it's not about being for free, because basically it is. Do you remember, I heard you speak about housing. Do you remember, Helen, when housing was for the person who could not afford a home? What is it today? Oh, you can respond later, but what I'm saying is we're here to help our community. And if these dollars can reach those kids, those children that want to maybe take piano lessons, that it's unheard of. Maybe some just can get in a car, take their kids, go pay for it, invest in them, and are happy that they're doing that. But that's not for everybody. It is for everybody, but it's not accessible for everybody. So I'm happy to see if there's a condition in there about why they are unable, not making excuses, but and not judging anybody, but to accept if they state why there is an inability to do the volunteer work. Thank you.
Elena?
Thanks, Greg. We can definitely take that feedback back to the committee. But just for community's information, I would like to just briefly go over the application. So it begins with a checklist, and for individuals, there's a proof of cost that needs to be attached. The budget is just filling out in the application what your budget is. The letter of reference is mentioned here, but there's nothing that says, I don't believe, what it needs to include. A photocopy of the applicant's status card needs to be attached, and then the other two pieces of the checklist are for associations to complete. But then it's very, to me, it's very simple. It's just filling out the name, your phone number, all of that information. There's a section for associations, and then where your donation is going to go. So that community, recreation, arts and culture, education, or health. You're signing off on that. And then there's a few questions. So describe the reason for your donation request and the cost you would like covered. Describe how this donation will contribute to your positive growth, achievement, and healthy development. How will your project benefit the community? Describe your fundraising activities to date. There's the space for the budget, so that's the expenses and the project funding if there are other funders for this event or sport or camp or whatever it may be. We have the volunteer information and somewhere for them to sign off, just a brief description of what the work is that is going to be performed, and signing off on that, and that's it. It's not cumbersome, I don't believe, for an amount of $1,000. It attributes to our accountability to community. This is not our money around this table just to give out to whoever whenever they want it. We have to be accountable to community as well. So that satisfies, I believe, that requirement. And I would just like to say to Amos that although I felt like I could be doing something better with my time when I was younger, I was made to volunteer in this community, and I'm very glad that I did. I volunteered at the Iroquois Lodge. I did some other events, and it did build character, and it does get you out into the community and getting to know people and using those communication skills at an earlier age. So I hope that around this table we can see that. But to Leslie's point, if people are unable to, I think that's within the donation committee's authority. Maybe if we decide to give them that authority to exempt for particular reasons. So there's solutions for everything. I think upping the amounts is going to be very helpful for families and expanding um, the possibilities for kids and vulnerable persons.
Great, thank you, Elena. Dale and Audrey. Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at this policy, there was a number of different policies that existed, different pots of money that existed. So we wanted to combine them. So that would be, I guess, in one spot, and that was in relation to the donation committee. Yes, we upped the amount so that more people could do it. And historically, what had happened, it was always the same individuals or same families that were always coming. So we made it, I think it's once every 2 years now, so that other people can have access to this money. And yes, we expanded it beyond sports. because some people are into arts, some people are into music. And this donation committee is to help, not to be the sole source of what their goal or vision is, but is to help them. And yes, I thought the application process was simplified so that it could be done. And once the policy is approved, or just I echo Amos's comments as well in relation to this. But once the policy is done, administratively, what can be done? I know the donation committee will have that authority in regards to the application process, procedural things. The only thing they can impact is what the policy states. But if there's procedural things, then yes, they can look at that. And yeah, we did reduce the donation hours for certain individuals, and the parents can do it. But this was to help, not be their sole source. And we expanded it so more of our community members could benefit instead of uh, athletes or sports people. So people in the music, people in the crafts, whatever they wanted to do, whatever their hobby was that they wanted. So it was a little more accessible to help, not be the sole source of their goal or vision on what they wanted to do. So, I mean, I thought it was simplified, and yes, it's a little more accessible, and we broadened the scope and administrative stuff. Then that's where Nathan and the donation committee can look at things. And if the donation hours is an issue, or a letter of reference, like a letter of reference can come from a teacher. The teacher can say, put 3 sentences about this kid. It's that simple. Thank you.
Go ahead, Audrey.
First of all, I want to thank the committee for all the hard work they've done in this. And I do agree with my fellow colleagues here. I also think that the smaller, younger kids should not have to do any community hours. They're young. Let them play, let them enjoy their ballet or whatever they're doing. And their parents are doing their job by driving them there. And most of them sit and they watch and they make sure that their kids are well taken care of while they're there. So it's that family time and that bonding, and I don't think anything can replace that. And there's gonna come a time when it should be gradually introduced to them, and then on your way up to as older as they get. But just to let you know, Gripsio is reducing some of their volunteer hours. So, it's a catch-22, but I think we have to be more lenient, especially with our younger little guys. And I tell you, I wouldn't want my little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, even a 6-year-old to have to start volunteering around. There's a safety aspect to that. So if you're getting the parents to go and volunteer for them, then you've added another charge now to them for somebody watching them at home. So we have to be very careful what we say, because some people may not be able to afford gas, have a car to go and do all this stuff. And the second one is that people are passionate about reading and math. So why can't this money go towards Sylvan or some kind of a program like that that specializes in their passion? And a lot of kids would prefer to just sit and read and read and read and read, but they may not know their math, and vice versa. So that would be my recommendation, that that be included as well, those things of passion, like how to play the guitar, etc. It includes what? Well, there you go. This is on top of educational. Yay, Lena.
Yes, go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, as you can see around the table, it's nice to have a variety of minds, their ideas. Helen has brought this forward and questioned this, and it has emerged into more discussion. And now we have a full idea, understanding of this particular committee and how they do a lot of work. So I think we need to thank the committee as well as Helen for bringing these things forward, that we are able to uh, discuss in a really good manner for the community to also have further information. Thanks.
Yeah, Elena.
So we'll take those suggestions and any others. The next internal systems meeting is the 26th of this month. So if you have any other suggestions before then, please let us know so we can have that discussion and inform Dwayne to make revisions, please.
So at this point, you've basically now heard all the concerns. It'd be, I guess, for us now, not to pass it as is, but to have it go back to the committee just for some fine tuning,
Yes.
and then to bring back with, as you review the application process, as you review all the other conditions, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's what we'll do for now. Do I need a mover for that, Nathan? No. So what we'll do is we'll leave it with the committee to just, again, fine tune, take in all of the comments and suggestions, and then come back with a final vote or draft on that. So we'll leave it then with the Internal Systems Committee for now. Okay, moving on to number 8. Let's go on to move on into the update from committees. And this would be starting with lands and membership. Recommendation 8A, Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council. Accept the report. Do we have a committee member to anything to report in lands and membership at this time? Okay,
I
Helen?
have a report here. I guess basically what I want to say too is our lands and membership issues don't change from one week to the next. They could be there for 2 years trying to work on them. So one of the bigger things that we were dealing with is estates management. Six Nations Council does not do estates, but we still get a lot of questions and concerns in that from different people that have issues with the states, and there is a lot of issues with the states. There had been a question at one point of council taking over estates, but there has to be a lot of discussion around doing that. And a lot of the issues with, there's a lot of issues with ISK dealing with the wills and stuff like that because they're so slow and people can't get a hold of them, and it's always been an issue of trying to get that done. There's been issues where people aren't honoring the estate, the executive director or executive, whatever they call them, doesn't honor the will, so you run into a lot of issues. So the senior manager at Lands Membership did have a meeting with the people, the estates people from ISK, and they are working on some kind of a solution where people can meet with these estate people to ask more questions about different things, and they're going to try and be more available for people to do that. But that for council taking over estates, that's been floating around for I don't know how many years, but it's never been discussed fully. Right now, lands membership doesn't have the space to be taking over anything, so it might be something we want to look at later on. So really what Lori does for a lot of the time, she just plays an advocacy role and tries to get them in touch with the proper people and stuff like that. Second generation cutoff of voting threshold, of course, you know, that's a biggie. So councils, we're trying to work on that. We did send a letter to ISK last week. I think council approved it. So that went. The community want to have a meeting on the second generation cutoff. They don't understand it, so they want to know if they could have a community meeting on it. So there seems to be a few issues where people want a community meeting. So I'm thinking, why can't we have a community meeting and bring up all the different issues that people have? They want information on the court, more information on the court case, but of course that's coming October 3rd. They want information on the second generation cutoff because they just don't understand it. So we might want to look at a community meeting and maybe bring up 2 or 3 different issues and to talk about different things. Uh, External matters, J-Treated Border Alliance, that's another biggie. And I know council doesn't know very much about the J-Treated Border Alliance, at least not the new councilors. So I wanted to suggest having Ava Hill, the coordinator of the J-Treated Border Alliance, to come and see if she would do a presentation on it to council. Um, it's real. It's good. We need to get these things at the table because there's going to be decisions having to be made, and it's this council that's going to have to make the decisions. So you have to know what you're deciding with the J-Treated Border Alliance, and just basically what's happening is the United States is they're trying to get rid of the blood quantum. And they're dealing with the Immigration Act because they put us they got First Nations people in the Immigration Act in the United States, and they're treating us like, they want to treat us like immigrants. So they're working really hard trying to get rid of those things. In Canada, we're sitting there trying to get Canada to recognize the J Treaty. So they're working together on all of these issues, and they have been for about 10 years, I think it started when Ava was chief. It's a slow process, but one of the good things with Canada, our council in Canada, is we finally got what they call a high table. And that's a table where the ministers and different people in Ottawa are meeting with the people with the J-Treated Border Alliance for the first time ever, I think, to talk about the J Treaty. That's a big significance. So at some point, there's going to have to be decisions made. I don't know how soon that's going to be, but I also know the ACC is working on this kind of stuff too. So I don't know what they're doing. I know they met with the Border Alliance people at one point, but I don't know what they're doing. So it's really a complicated subject. It's really important for Six Nations because we're making such really good headway on this. And hopefully we'll get to be able to recognize the J Treaty, but I don't know how soon that's going to be. They have come up with what they call an interim measure because they're doing legislation. So they have come up with what they call an interim measure for people crossing the border. Um, I don't know how much faith I have in it because it's Mark Miller that's doing it. And I don't know if I trust Mark Miller. So there's a lot of things, but as the coordinator, Ava's been coordinating this right from the beginning, so she can probably give a better information session on it than I could. I guess me and Laura could do it if we had to, but I would rather have somebody do it that's been sitting there for a while. There's 3 or 4 different kinds of technical tables. There's a right of entry table. There's a border crossing experience table, and this is where we need Joe Martin's help. We need Joe Martin to document the complaints about the border. I know the last time he reported to us, I think the border issues, I think, was one of the major issues that he's been dealing with. Well, we need him to document what kind of complaints people have. We don't need names, we don't need anything, we just need the situation. And then it can go to this border crossing experience table, so then they can start dealing with all the different kinds of issues that people are having. So I don't know who Joe Martin falls under in terms of supervisory, but I would hope that we could get him to do that. Um, Entry of goods, technical table, that's another big issue at the border, entry of goods. You know, some people were getting stopped for bringing their regalias and stuff like that across the border, or not being allowed to bring the regalias for the powwows and different things. So there was a lot of issues with that. So these are all the technical tables that we have. And I know I'm sitting on one of these. I just can't remember which one. I think it's right of entry. I'm not sure, but I sit there. The meeting that we've been wanting to try and get with Patty Hadju is still on the table. We need her to be here. We need to have a meeting with her regarding membership and especially adoptions, different issues with the status cards, uh, different kind of things like that. Legislation specific to membership is not aligned with practice. The fiduciary obligations of the federal government, interest, additions to reserves, that's another one, addition to reserves. Big decisions got to be made there. I've been sitting there now for since 2021, but WHO, because they're short-staffed, was having a hard time dealing with this. They had a addition to reserve committee set up, but for some reason that fell apart. So then they added to reserve under the Chiefs Committee on Housing, and that didn't work. So now they've developed a land policy task force to deal with the ATR. So I'm going to be sitting there. And it was supposed to take so many years, but they're really vamping up the process. Now they're combining phase 1, 2 with phase 3, so they're really rushing this thing. And there's a lot of concerns with it. I have a lot of concerns with it. So we've got to look on that. Lori has written here that a motion was created to seek a meeting with Minister Patty Hadju. I remember that, but that was a while back, so I don't know whether we ever request. I know Sherry Lynn's been trying to meet with her, but has she ever requested her to meet with council? Because that's what we need to do, is for her to come here and meet with council, not just meet with the chief. Immigration concerns, we're dealing with that. And especially with community level complaints, like I was saying, going across the border, I don't know how many people are having issues because a lot of the border crossing, they're not taking the orange card. They want the white card. It's getting difficult to cross the border. They don't even want cash no more. They don't want to take your cash no more. They want you to do a credit card. So there was issues with that, immigration stuff, but that's all part of the J Treaty borderlines too. And I really think council needs to understand this immigration stuff because they're doing awful things to us in their Immigration Act. And they're really, really doing a lot of things with the blood quantum that they shouldn't be doing. We had I think it was, Lori had a concern from some guy in the States who went to get his driver's license and he was told he had to have a blood quantum letter. So in the States, they're kind of using it for different things that they're not supposed to be. So it's really a big issue. And then it was an issue for me because our citizenship code, if anybody's read it, has blood quantum in their citizenship code. But here we are sitting on the J-Treater Border Alliance trying to get rid of blood quantum. So I found that kind of a conflict, or whatever you want to call it. On the one hand, we're meeting with all these people to try and get rid of blood quantum, and then our citizenship code has blood quantum in it. So we need to look at dealing with that somehow. And I know Lori's been dealing with the hydro poles, and the hydro agreements. It seems to me like membership's dealing with a lot of things that they shouldn't be. I don't know what hydro agreements has to do with membership. I don't know why they're there. It just doesn't fit with membership, lands and membership. So she's been doing a lot with the hydro and coming to an understanding. And it's been really hard for Lori because she's new, and she is required to complete a 2-year course called land management. And it's a 2-year course, and it's very intensive. And part of her job when she got hired was she had to complete that course. She's out in Edmonton this week, as a matter of fact, because they travel all over for their different lessons. But it's really, really a good course. It's a land management course, and it's an excellent course that I would hope that we could get a land manager to do that course. But it's really good. It's got the environment, and everything is in there. Food security, everything you can think of is in that course, and it's really good, and she's really learning a lot. But it's hard to do a full-time course when you're also a senior manager running a new department. For her, it's a new department, and she's been really working hard to modernize the department because it was really out of, they weren't like up to date on a lot of stuff. So she's been working hard on that. There's a lot of other issues too that I could be bringing up, but I'll leave those for another day. I don't know if Hazel wants to add anything.
You could go on all night.
I know.
And it's true, some of the topics that are in lands membership. I've often thought that with some of the things that Lori's brought to our attention that need to be discussed, like 2 counselors certainly can't make big decisions on some of the activities that need to be addressed, like say this J Treaty business, the lands and estates. To me, I think it would be just what this reserve needs, but like I said, we could go on and on all night because there's so many different topics. But the one thing that I want to say is, if the border are not really accepting our cards, what can you give them if you don't have if they don't want to accept your card? Can you give them your license? Will they accept that?
That's what they want.
They have to accept our card. They can't deny the orange card.
I know, but what if you
But they
drive
do.
there? If you drive there and all of a sudden you're met up with some stern fella at the border, he's not going to let you across. Like, what do you offer him if you don't want to take your status card? What about your visa?
They don't want the orange card because they're lazy. The orange card, they got to key everything in. The white card, they just go like this.
You know what?
This is pure laziness.
This is the same example as what we talked about before with having simplified things. It's almost like somebody gets a brainstorm, I guess, and makes things more difficult than they really need to be. So that's my theory. Thank you.
Uh, Leslie? Go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Helen, for that presentation on lands and membership. I remember going to the Iroquois caucus when we, earlier in our tenure here and as counselors. And the Jay Treaty was brought up at the Iroquois caucus, and I think that's where that needs to sit strongly. And I don't know if you're a part of that with the Iroquois caucus, because they pay special attention to the matters that come across our people. When you spoke about the Jay Treaty, which is established 1794, in the last 50 years, it's been on the books under immigration. I didn't know that. That's what I didn't know. But I'm glad that you are looking at that today. And it is true, we are not immigrants here. So, but I want to ask you something. Does all of our community understand what ISK means? What that acronym is?
Probably not.
Okay,
It's Indigenous Services Canada. It's was formerly Indian Affairs, along with CERNAC. CERNAC is they split Indian Affairs into two things: CERNAC and ISK. CERNAC is Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada, and ISK is Indigenous Services Canada. Both of those were formerly Indian Affairs. So I know it's real hard using acronyms. I run into that with my meetings I attend when I'm going all over, because they use acronyms and that you don't know what they are. You have to just ask, but I mean, it gets to be a habit after a while.
The other acronym that was used was ACC. Can you just describe what that was?
What was it?
ACC.
Oh, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Chiefs Council.
Okay, I heard ACC, not HCC.
Oh.
So I know that 1794, that's an old treaty, and I'm thankful that it's not just a symbol, because I know that's what they would like to. That's where people would like to have it placed, but that it wouldn't work for us, because in that treaty it states that, well, you know, it was signed by the U.S. and Great Britain, right? And it included a provision for free passage by First Nations peoples and their personal goods, and to access what is now the Canadian-U.S. border. And then we could retire in the States. We can go there for study. We can live, intermarry, and enjoy that. Enjoy the living here in North America. So somebody's just trying to, you know, tweak it out of the existence. So thank you for bringing that, Helen.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Cynthia?
I just want to add, there's a need for different meetings with community information sessions. And I think somebody did note, because you were talking about the claim, the claims, the litigation case. And Amos had said earlier at our meeting, they announced that they will have an update for the community with the legal team on October 3rd, starting at 6 Community Hall. But the other one, I think you were at a medical appointment on Monday, Helen, and that was with the second generation cutoff. And council did ask for the housing manager to have, we wanted to set that up for the community, but have somebody from Indigenous Services Canada, ISK, come and present, explain, and answer questions community has on that. Okay.
Great, thank you. If there's no further questions or comments, I'd like to have a motion to accept Helen's report for lands and membership as for information. Motion by Dale, second by Audrey. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, the motion is carried. Moving on to wealth and economy. Oh, go ahead, Helen. Sure, go ahead.
Uh, I wasn't here last night, but we're still having a big issue at our committee with these briefing notes, because we don't we don't know who's supposed to be doing them. I'm not doing them. The chair of a committee does not do briefing notes. Neither does a committee member do briefing notes. a secretary says that she's not gonna, doesn't have to do them. I talked to Dean about it, and he said technicians do it. But do we have we don't have technicians, our committee. We just have a senior manager.
Go ahead, Nathan, did you want to
But
address
it's
that?
my understanding that the supervisor should be doing the briefing notes. Like if we have a briefing note that we need, Lori should be able to take it to her supervisor and say, here, do this briefing note. Right? Trevor.
Yeah. So the way I've been receiving briefing notes from other committees, Holly's been doing them, and for Lori, we talked about it, not at the meeting, but offline, and between Trevor and Ken, we'll be doing the briefing notes, should there be one warranted for lands and membership.
Great, thank you. Moving on to wealth and economy. As you know, I'm the chair for wealth and economy. There's been a couple of issues that have not been resolved yet because we're in the process of gathering some information. One of them, of course, is getting ready for the parliamentary committee, the witness, and helping the chief gain the information on excise taxes, and other taxes as well. As you know, she's going to be, hopefully in October, she'll be presenting our case. And so we were gathering information on that, and I do have to thank the community members that have come forward and that have attended some of our meetings, and the information is invaluable. Of course, we invite others as well in terms of the gas station operators, in terms of also, and we've had, of course, someone from Six Nations Natural Gas come in, and she's been very helpful. So we've had some good, constructive, I would say, discussion. We're still gathering information. We want more statistics so we can be better prepared and give that to the chief so that when she presents to the parliamentary committee, she'll be well informed. The other thing too, of course, is it's always a constant review of cannabis and the cannabis situations that we have come upon in recent, and we're still working on that, and we will be meeting with Kathy Mayer fairly soon. She's been off, I believe, on medical leave, so when she's back, we'll be pursuing those issues as well. One of the other of things too that has been brought up, I think, is also our own source revenue. So we'll be looking towards, as we go through the management agreement with the council, and we'll be presenting that to council as with Economic Development Corporation. And we're going to make sure everyone's up to speed on that, as well as some areas that we can tweak it possibly so that we can open areas for our own source revenue and also give them political support, because I believe it's very important to provide political support for economic development. The other thing too is that with wealth and economy, the political committee mandate directive, it will also come to council as well. Once that happens, we will then go to the radio, and we'll present it on the radio. And also, it is finalized. It just has to be ratified by council. And when that's done, then we can go to the community. One idea that is written in our mandate and also has been brought up several times tonight is the possibility of community engagement. And that's something also we can look into and see what directives we can get from community. And one of them would be having a community engagement session, whether it's combined with others or it's on its own. That's something that we're still working on. So that's something that we'll be working on as well. The other thing too is just looking at individual businesses and their needs as well, and some of their concerns. And again, this community engagement will be very helpful, and we'll invite all private business so that we can get I would get a baseline for us in terms of directives and some of the concerns that we can actually approach high levels of government. And for example, banking is an issue, and we'll be looking into banking as well. So All of these issues we know of. We know some of the concerns of the community, and then we'll be putting forth a directive, I would say paper, in order to address some of these issues. If there's any further comments from Dean or Elena, other than that, that's the basis for our report tonight. So could I have someone move to accept it as information? Amos, seconder Leslie, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. Let's move on to the last one, and that is the education, language, and culture. And I can say that it's report either through Audrey or Amos. Audrey, thank you.
Thank you very much, colleague. We have our mandate here. It hasn't been ratified yet, but I think the community should know what direction we're headed in. And this is a political committee, and Amos is a co-chair along with myself, and we do education, language, and culture, political committee. So our mandate directive is looking at the community needs, and that's what we're doing, and rights protection. And we're working with the lifelong learning task force to look at the needs of our students, our children, parents, community in education. And our political committee is political advocacy and relationship building, and we're doing that presently. We're right now advocating for Gawaneo, who have some concerns of some on funding, some on other things, and relationship building. We're working on that with Travis Anderson, who's the director of federal schools, and Susan Shroniak from ISC, which is Indigenous Services Canada. And we're meeting tomorrow, and we're going to be going over relationship building, how we work together, policies and procedures, and basically how we can work together to benefit each other. We know that the federal government is responsible for the federal schools, so we just have to build that relationship of how we interact. And anything we do at education, we only make recommendations to full council here. It comes to council for full decisions. And this is where we report to. And now also here, we said we need for a full council or broader AFN or COO. Yes, we do attend those conferences, but I also sit on several of their, well, a few of their committee meetings, as does Amos. You sit on the language, don't you, Amos? Amos sits on the language there, which is good because working with them, they were able to work together for all of Canada to develop that new interim funding formula, which gave the First Nations in Canada more money than they were receiving prior to it. But it's still not enough. First Nations are still going back and asking for more money. And that's one of the reasons Six Nations did not take over our education system at that time, because we weren't ready and we were already underfunded. Why would we take it over? So again, the same thing sits true for now. If we are being underfunded on our education, then we will not be taking over education. It'll stay in as a federal government responsibility, because it is. We're even have difficulty getting our schools paid for. 33 years plus for Gawaneo, and another school built their own. And we have new schools that'll need to be built soon, so that all has to be factored in. We also work with the cultural language, and they are on our core team. Karen Sandy is the chair for that, and she does a really good job. And we're trying to work on getting language into all the schools, all the areas that we can. But this will take some time, but it'll also take money. And one of the challenges that we have is that there are only two of us. And Amos is quite busy, and I'm quite busy, but we have to make time for additional meetings so that we can't just meet once a month. There are more meetings, like we're having 2 meetings tomorrow. And they were just able to, I was able to make them this morning, and took me like half a day to do them. And I find out that I need training now in how to set up Teams and how to set up Zoom and put people on, and Nathan is going to train me in that. So thank you, Nathan, for that. And that way we can have meetings when we need to have them with the people we need to have them. And that's kind of important to help move us along. So we help prepare the agendas, and we get also input from our lifelong learning committee. Also, the Woodland Cultural Center is part of our under our umbrella. And we do reach out to administrative experts. We've had Linda Parker meet with us, and she did a summary, and also Claire of all the reports of Gowaneo, put them all together so that it made sense, and it was very helpful. So we do that. We read, we research constantly. And we do bring our political matters here. I have brought matters here, and there's still more matters to be discussed with council. And I consider Amos an expert in language and culture. So when we do have questions, we take them to Amos, and he's able to help us. One thing I don't like in the mandate we have here is the term Aboriginal or inherent rights of Six Nations. I would prefer not to use that word, so that's something council can talk about. And we do try to do teamwork. I'm still trying to get some of the councilors to come and join me who have education backgrounds and who can help out. So failing that, I guess, Nathan, you're gonna have to come and join us. Our meetings are once a month. And as needed, I guess, is the better way to phrase that. And we have not received our minutes yet from our last meeting, so they will be done at next meeting. And the quorum is we make decisions by consensus, and if it has to go to a vote, it'll go to a vote. But it's pretty hard when you have two people there. And if it can't be decided by a vote, then it'll be coming to full council here for the decision. And basically, we do an awful lot of work, and it's constant. People are calling all the time. There's lots of complaints, and we're going to be dealing with that again tomorrow, trying to set up a complaints procedure with the federal schools and our ombudsman, our Joe Martin. Hopefully he can attend. So there's lots of work being done on behalf of the Six Nations community, on behalf of our students and our kids and our adults. So if you see us, just see how you can help. And we're going to be putting an ad out soon for some new hires because we need some more skilled people working with us in order to take it to the next phase. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Audrey. Amos, would you like anything to add? Good. Great. Then I'd like to recommend that we accept Audrey's report for education, language, and culture as information. Could I have a mover? Moved by Leslie, seconder. Second by Dale. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing, seeing none, motion is carried. Yeah, there just seems to be a common theme of the lack of funding. That seems to be, the common theme that we see across the board. Hopefully, in wealth and economy, we can look for source of own source revenue in some doors that we can possibly open. And we've been actually discussing that in our committee as well. But we would not come forward unless we had concrete solutions and answers and a way forward. So thank you very much. We have some additional items that we would like to put in camera. So right now I need a mover to, for a motion to move to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Leslie, second by Hazel. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing or seeing none, motion is carried. So I would like to thank everyone. As you know, it's almost 8 o'clock. The Chiefs are playing tonight, I believe. It's game 4. They're up, 2-1. So good luck to the Chiefs tonight. And hopefully they can close this series out in the limited or least amount of games as possible. And we wish them luck. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good night, everyone.